Ladies and gentlemen, when you read what's actually taking place, this is very good for President Trump, very good for General Michael Flynn. And I wrote in the Federalist, one of my articles last year, I wrote that Michael Flynn should be pardoned. And the reaction from certain people, I do not have a Twitter account. I do not have Facebook. But the reaction from certain people is, oh my God, could you believe what H.A. Goodman wrote? Could you believe it? The issue regarding Michael Flynn was that he was set up and framed. He was set up and framed by Andrew McCabe. Andrew McCabe, by the way, people are making a big deal about this. Oh, he didn't get indicted. Okay. Why? Because they're looking only at the IG report. The IG report, first of all, the Inspector General recommended indictments initially. And he recommended indictments for Comey. But the Inspector General report does not have all the information, all the emails, all the correspondence, all the emails showing, or all the evidence showing that the Steele dossier was complete and utter nonsense, and they all knew it. They should never have started the Mueller probe. They should never have started Crossfire Hurricane based on evidence from Alexander Downer or Christopher Steele. That's not the way. You don't start a counterintelligence probe against American citizens like President Trump and people around him based on a dossier purchased by Clinton. McCabe lied under oath. His spouse received hundreds of thousands of dollars from Terry McAuliffe, and he lied under oath with intent to deceive. He got away with it initially. Is he going to get away with it forever? William Barr and John Durham are still investigating. So that's not the end of the line regarding Comey or McCabe or Strzok or any of them. Not by a long shot. But here, this is actually really great news. So I wrote, because Mueller found no collusion, Trump should pardon Michael Flynn. What they did with Michael Flynn and President Trump, the first mistake that he made, was allowing McCabe, it was Comey and McCabe at the time, allowing them to go after Michael Flynn. Because there was this hysteria, oh my God, he spoke to Sergei Kislyak, and so therefore we have to. Donnie Chappelle, Comey to be indicted soon. I think, Donnie, thank you so very much. Thank you, Donnie Chappelle. I think Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Clapper, Brennan, after Trump wins again, it's game over. Because after Trump wins again, thank you, Ken Hunt from New Zealand, thank you. After Trump wins again, Donnie Chappelle, you will see even Democrats will want to rid themselves of all of these very corrupt officials. But Michael Flynn, Roger Stone, William Barr are slowly reversing the unlawful, this unlawful, unethical special counsel. It was a special counsel. Okay, the special counsel did not follow the rule of law. The rule of law states that you have to have some kind of crime preceding an investigation. You cannot simply be suspicious. If that's the case, you read Peter Schweitzer's Clinton Cash, and then you say, let's start an investigation. Or President Trump purchases a dossier, and with that dossier he purchases, we start an investigation on Clinton and Comey and Strzok and McCabe and Clapper and Brennan, all of them. That's not the way it works. They had no evidence. They had suspicion, and it was all an extent. The United States government was an extension of the Democratic Party. Okay. The United States government was an extension of the Democratic Party. That's why you have Comey and McCabe and Strzok and Clapper. Well, you have Comey, McCabe, Brennan, and Clapper on CNN and MSNBC, and they're getting published in the New York Times and the Washington Post. That's why you see them on one side right after they were either fired or forced out of government. They did not want Trump. The notion that Comey or Mueller were Republicans is nonsense. They're Republicans in the same way McCain was a Republican. That Jeff Flake or Mitt Romney's a Republican. They're never Trumpers. Paul Ryan. They don't want Trump. They never wanted Trump, so therefore they didn't want Michael Flynn. And they had it out for Roger Stone. And I think Assange should be pardoned. I think Roger Stone should be pardoned. George Papadopoulos should have whatever expunged. He shouldn't have that on his record. You cannot start an investigation based on Russian collusion and then indict people on crimes associated with the investigation, but not having nothing to do with the initial allegation. If they investigate you for allegedly selling narcotics, and they find no evidence, in fact, they never had any evidence you sold narcotics, but they get you on lying about an email or not remembering when you sent an email, and then they say, well, that's obstruction of justice. We're going to get you on that. They're utilizing the United States government as a tool. They don't really care about justice. But here, Sandiford, I think most of the pardons and prosecutions will begin happening after the next election. He's waiting. Sandiford, I agree. Donnie Chappelle, thank you so very much. I think James Comey eventually, along with McCabe and other people, Kleinsmith, they set up Michael Flynn. They utilized the dossier to deceive FISA judges. They never had a predicate crime. They investigated based on a dossier purchased by the Clinton campaign. Everything was an absolute scam. This is why they could not include anything to do with the Mueller probe within the articles of impeachment. Did you notice? This is very important. Whenever anyone says that Trump is corrupt, that he's tarnished the rule of law, ask that person, if you really have to discuss the issue, ask the person why the articles of impeachment did not list a crime. They had 3 years. Ladies and gentlemen. 3 years to come up with something. His taxes, Avenatti, Stormy, They accused him of giving classified intelligence to Russian diplomats, which is nonsense. That's based on one of the many, many contacts or sources that the New York Times has, which for some reason hardly ever give accurate information. Why didn't they include anything to do with the Mueller probe in the articles of impeachment? Why didn't they include the Trump Jr. meeting? Why didn't they include the indicted Russian intelligence officials that they claimed helped Trump? Because they outsourced everything. Right now, the political will is not there, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the political will is not there to charge McCabe. McCabe and Comey and Kleinsmith and Strzok were essentially crooked cops. If these were law enforcement officials whose text messages showed not just bias, that they had it out for certain citizens, they would never win in a court case, because the text messages would have shown, yeah, we're going to go after this person, we're going to go after that person. When Peter Strzok says we'll stop Trump, and then he interviews Michael Flynn, that case should have been thrown out in the very beginning. It's interesting too, because let's just read this. Barr installs outside prosecutors to review case against Michael Flynn. That's the New York Times. Justice Department opens inquiry into FBI interview at heart of Flynn's guilty plea. Michael Flynn pled guilty because the Mueller probe was at its height. And the Mueller probe, we didn't know exactly when it was going to end. We knew it was going to end somehow. We didn't know exactly when. Okay? We knew that the writing was on the wall. It was going to end. I was saying that there was never going to be any issue with Trump. He wasn't going to be kicked out of office, and he would be exonerated eventually, and he was. And when they say, well, no, the Mueller report was very damaging, well, then why didn't they include the Mueller report in the articles of impeachment? This is all for Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's going to be nominee. So when this takes place and you see the election, when Democrats lose again with Clinton, they are going to beg William Barr to clean house. They are going to beg William Barr to clean house. It just hasn't happened yet. They're not going after. They're not going. There's not. Bernie Sanders is not going to become nominee. He could have become nominee in 2016 when I was saying he was going to win. He would have won. Thank God Trump won. Thank God. Donnie Chappelle, thank you again. And I do believe Comey and McCabe and others, I think those indictments are going to take place after the election. They committed crimes. When Comey says that, well, we viewed the Steele dossier as raw intelligence, and I didn't know that the Steele. When he says he didn't know that the Steele dossier was purchased by Clinton, when he says that he didn't know the Steele dossier was purchased by Clinton, he's not telling the truth. He's lying. He's not telling the truth. That's obviously a lie. That's absurd. So, and then the whole William Barr and Trump thing, it's like he's getting heat from media because media actually sees him as a threat. They want to impeach William Barr. They're going out with Sessions. They loved Sessions. They were defending Sessions. What he did was like a judo move where he used his opponent's momentum against the opponent. So the media was like, impeach Barr. And he was like, gosh, Trump is making my life difficult with his tweets. And then media and Democrats were like, oh my God, the computer program, the machine stopped for a second. And they're like, well, what do we do? What do we do? He said something negative about Trump. What do we do? So then they had to reverse course and say, well, even Barr. So they took a moment away from saying impeach William Barr to saying, well, even William Barr says that Trump's tweets too much. So that was, that was meaningless. But they're going to reverse Michael Flynn's, I guess, when you look at it, they didn't go after Comey, they didn't go after McCabe, and they're going to reverse Michael Flynn and Roger Stone's cases. So I'll take that. That's a win. You have to understand also that media in Washington, they think that they truly believe that the Mueller probe was legitimate, lawful, that it was needed. They truly believe that. They truly believe that. Or they're pretending to believe it. But not enough people understand that the Mueller probe was a vengeful attempt at retribution. That's it. It was the United States government serving as a vehicle to implement some type of retaliation or retribution for Trump winning. That's exactly what took place. That's why they couldn't include anything that took place within the articles of impeachment. They couldn't include anything to do with the Mueller probe within the articles of impeachment. Terry Rood! Trump train is a full head of steam, clearing roadblocks. She's Terry Rood! Thank you very much. Thank you, Terry. Yes. Thank you, Terry, very much. I think it's very good. Michael Flynn was set up. What happened with Michael Flynn was this. Democrats lost. When they lost, they created, this was the height of the Red Scare, McCarthy era, conspiratorial theory that became legitimized by the United States government. They got millions of people to believe, with unethical journalists and FBI. The FBI and media were intertwined. The IG report talked about that. Numerous IG reports talked about that. The FBI would feed bogus information into the media. The media would then publicize and fan the flames of suspicion and innuendo and conjecture and hyperbole. And Trump was capable of anything, because how could we have lost to Trump? So obviously Russia must have helped. Meanwhile, it was President Obama who said that nobody could cheat a presidential election. It was President Obama who said that the 80s want their foreign policy back to Mitt Romney. It was under President Obama's watch that Russia took over Crimea, and President Obama did nothing. It was under President Obama's watch that 80% of U.S. uranium capacity was acquired at that moment by Putin. And so whether or not Clinton had the authority is irrelevant. It was said that that Putin was so afraid of her. Do you truly think that Putin is afraid of Clinton? On what planet do you think that Vladimir Putin is afraid of Clinton? She used servers outside of the United States government running on Microsoft Exchange software. You don't think the Russians were smart enough to acquire every single piece of this? That's what Michael Hayden said. That's not me. He was the intelligence chief under President Obama. That's not me. That's Robert Gates, the defense secretary under President Obama, who worked with Clinton. So, I mean, you're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at this magic show, this sleight of hand, this illusion, smoke and mirrors. And every time they fail, they have another absurd excuse, and media they go with it. And Democrats go with it. Oh, well, you know what? It had to be done. Now you're hearing, well, impeachment had to be done, because they know it was an absolute failure, catastrophe. 61% of Americans are happier today than they were under President Obama. 61% of Americans. That broke a record. The highest was like 50-something, 51%. 61% of Americans are happier. This is under Gallup, a Gallup poll the other day. So they have nothing. They know that they don't have anything. They have to continually. They have to continually. Exactly. She had SAP intelligence on servers. But they have to continually come up with this nonsense. If they tried to kick out Michael Flynn for speaking to Sergei Kislyak. Sergei Kislyak's calls with Flynn were already reviewed by the FBI. They were already intercepted, and there was nothing there. Then they said, well, Michael Flynn didn't tell Pence, which is irrelevant because Michael Flynn doesn't have to tell Pence anything. So, let's see. They said, well, he lied to Pence. Like, so what? So what? Then they said, well, he might have been working as a consultant for another country. Even the judge in that trial said, okay, well, you know what? Sorry about that. I misspoke. But here, Pence, Flynn, this is updated December 2017. Pence, Flynn, and the Russia investigation, a timeline of key events that none of which made their way to the articles of impeachment. Okay. February 26, 2016. Reuters reports that Flynn has been formally advising Trump on foreign policy during the presidential campaign. So what? June 9th, 2016, Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya meets with Donald Trump Jr. and son-in-law Jared Kushner and then campaign manager Paul Manafort in Trump Jr.'s office at Trump Tower in New York. Well, then why wasn't this in the articles of impeachment? Oh, yeah, nobody cared. Trump Jr. has said he went to the meeting to find out if Natalia Veselnitskaya had damaging information to share about Clinton campaign. So what? That wasn't in the articles of impeachment, was it? Nobody was indicted for that, were they? That didn't break any laws, did it? Okay. June 16, 2016. Trump announces he's chosen Pence as his running mate. October 14, 2000. Notice how, like, these benign, just boring, like, dates. This is a USA Today article, but, like, they have to. This is like Watergate to Democrats. Like, they really, oh my God, they have to make it really, really, really. They have to make this really, really, intriguing. October 14, 2016. Pence says on Fox News that the national media is chasing after unsubstantiated allegations that Trump campaign is in cahoots with publishes documents from anonymous sources. Nothing could be further from the truth. So basically, he knew something about the DNC emails. Okay, that's never been proven because it's nonsense, because there's no evidence of that. November 8, 2016, Trump was elected president and Pence is elected vice president. November 10, 2016, during a meeting at the White House, President Obama reportedly warns Trump against hiring Flynn. For what purpose warns Trump about what? Don't you love this public relations spin? Warns Trump about what? President Obama hired Michael Flynn to run the Defense Intelligence Agency. Michael Flynn was part of President Obama's administration. He ran the Defense Intelligence Agency. So all you hear is President Obama reportedly warns Trump against hiring Flynn. Rick, why? He warned Trump about what regarding Flynn? So this is nonsense. It's complete nonsense. November 11, 2016, Pence takes over as the Trump transition team from New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Flynn is vice chair. Christie later says on December 6, 2017, that he believes his opposition to making Flynn National Security Advisor was a significant reason he was replaced. Okay, what was the opposition based on? Why? Flynn had a lot more background to become National Security Advisor than Hillary Clinton did to become Secretary of State. All Clinton did was vote for Bush's failed policies. Flynn served alongside General Stanley McChrystal, who, by the way, was forced out by President Obama because of an article in Rolling Stone. An article was enough to force out General Stanley McChrystal. Just one article. If it was Trump, it would be like, oh, Trump is so vindictive. But if it's President Obama, so it was no problem. It was, well, he had to do it. The media votes Democrat. Most of the media votes Democrat. So their suspicion goes only one way. That's why they have a double standard. Okay, so Democrats write Pence raising questions about Flynn's lobbying work for Russia and Turkey. Cummings asked Pence, as the head of transition, for information Flynn has shared with the transition, and a signed assertion from Flynn that he does not have a conflict of interest. Well, wait a second. What about the conflicts of interest? I love this. So there are no conflicts of interest when Peter Strzok says we'll stop Trump? That's not. There are no conflicts of interest when Andrew McCabe's spouse is given hundreds of thousands of dollars from Terry McAuliffe. I mean, there's no conflicts of interest there. Well, why are there only conflicts of interest when it comes to Trump? How does this only work one way? It only works one way. It's unbelievable. December 28, 2016, Obama signs an executive order announcing sanctions against Russia for interfering in the 2016 election. Sanctions right before he's about to leave office. Not at any point prior to that. Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak contacts Flynn, according to Flynn's plea agreement. Pence is in Indiana for... Okay, so Sergei Kislyak, so what? Contacts Flynn. December 29, 2016. Flynn calls a senior official of the presidential transition team, according to the plea agreement, for guidance on talking to Kislyak. Other senior members of the transition were also at the resort. Flynn then calls Kislyak and asks him not to escalate the situation and reports the conversation back to a transition official. Why couldn't he? This is December 29th. Okay, at the end of January, Trump is officially president. You mean to tell me that this was a big problem that he spoke to the Russian ambassador? He had every right to do so. You don't think President Obama's administration was doing the same thing? Of course they were. In fact, they wanted a Russian reset. You know that goofy photo? That goofy photo of Madam Secretary with, what's his name? The Russian foreign minister? Quantum football! Why should we observe any laws if McCabe isn't getting arrested? I agree. Because we're not Democrats. John Black, buying you a coffee, my friend. Cheers. Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Thank you, John Black. Quantum football, because you and I we're all Trump supporters, so obviously there's a different standard. They weren't even going to go after Juicy Smollett until it was so embarrassing they had to. Quantum football, thank you. Because you know what? If you're not a hardcore Democrat, then Luke St. Martin, thank you. Eric H526, hello. Luke St. Martin, hello. But then you get December 30th, 2016, Russian President Vladimir Putin announces Russia will not retaliate. So it's like January 12, 2016, the Washington Post reports Flynn and Kislyak spoke several times as the sanctions announcements was unfolding. So what? He could have reversed those sanctions, and there's no evidence that Russia hacked the DNC anyway. It's the ODNI report is only highly to moderately confident. Muffies! McCabe not facing charges. Still think Comey again indicted. I think Muffies, after the next election, they will all become me and you and everyone here. Muffies, thank you so very much. Christopher Hitchens, one of my inspirations in life. Christopher Hitchens was amazing. We need Christopher Hitchens in this world. I can tell you something right now. Christopher Hitchens wouldn't have been in love with Trump, but he probably would have sided with Trump over Democrats. Because at the end of the day, logic and reason, that's what Hitchens would never, ever, ever in a million years have adopted the irrational, absurd belief that Russia interfered in the election because they were so afraid of Clinton. He couldn't stand Madam Secretary. He couldn't stand Madam. He has the best. He didn't even want her to become Secretary of State. Mafeels, thank you. I think after the election, when you have Durham and Barr continuing their investigations, I think that there's going to be the political will. When Clinton loses to Trump again, Hillary Clinton will be nominee. Okay? Hillary Clinton will be nominee. They are not going to go with Klobuchar or Bernie or Biden, because Warren and Biden are already oh my God, there's this bug here. Sorry. Warren and Biden have already basically dropped out. So Annabelle 31458, thank you. Mary Poff, thank you, Mary. Thank you very, very, very much, Mary. Annabelle 31458, thank you. Mafiels and Mary, thank you. I think that at the end of the day, it's about political will. The political will for these things to happen isn't there yet. And if you look at Biden's lead shrinks in South Carolina as Sanders climbs to second. Okay, so Bernie has less delegates. He'll keep winning the popular vote and he'll get less delegates. So you have, let's look at these polls here. East Carolina University poll. The whole thing's nonsense to begin with. You have Biden still at 27% or so. Steyer is at almost 15%. Bernie's at 20%. So you have Steyer, Buttigieg. There's Deval Patrick who could do quite well. So, how is Tom Steyer at 14% in South Carolina? Can someone explain this to me? How on earth is Tom Steyer at 14%? How is Tom Steyer at 14% in South Carolina, but he didn't do anything in Iowa or New Hampshire? How is Biden at 28%, Bernie at 20%? When you get into the South, you're more conservative. You're more of a liberal, conservative type of Democrat. So this whole thing is nonsense. Okay, Bernie Sanders. They're never going to let Bernie Sanders win the nomination. It will never happen. They've already cheated him. They're going to continue to cheat him. They've already gone dirty and said that he stated a woman couldn't win. That he never said that. But here, there is no Deval Patrick. He dropped out. That was the other day. I was reading an article saying he hired somebody in South Carolina, but he dropped out. But it doesn't matter. They're not going to allow Bernie to win. That will just not happen. Exactly. There are 300 Democrats in South Carolina. Nevada, you'll probably see Amy Klobuchar suddenly win. Let's see, Nevada polls. The whole thing is they're not going to allow Bernie Sanders to win because they didn't in 2016. So Hillary Clinton is not going to campaign for Bernie Sanders. That doesn't make any sense, nor will it ever happen. They used an app to cheat him in Iowa. You don't think they're smart enough or devious enough to do something else? He's up because Biden was the front runner. Now his campaign is absolutely done. They have yet to level Bernie Sanders, and I don't know what they'll do, but they'll be nefarious and insidious, and Bernie voters will be upset, but they'll be powerless to stop anything. That's because Bernie Sanders won't push back. So he's way out in front in Nevada. You can rest assured he's not going to get the delegates. I don't care if he wins Nevada by 20,000 votes. He's not going to get the same delegates. So It'll be interesting. Like, I don't know how they're going to do it, but they have a huge problem on their hands. I mean, if they handle it the way they did in Iowa, nobody's talking about Iowa anymore. So, nobody's talking about Iowa anymore. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. Hillary Clinton is going to be nominee. It's a political machine. And, okay, Pete Buttigieg was like 20 points behind in Iowa in certain polls. 20 points behind Sanders, and he won. Also, the Nevada Democratic primary is like known to be shady. Known to be quite shady. So let's look at Nevada in 2016. Let's see. Nevada 2016 Dem primary. So Clinton won. She got 20 delegates. Bernie got 15 delegates. But what was the popular vote here? Okay. I can't find the let's see. Anyway, the whole thing was nonsense to begin with. So here you had Bernie losing to Clinton, but now you have a whole bunch of people that could take delegates away from Bernie. The whole thing is made to cheat Bernie Sanders. These are pledged delegates. He could win by 10,000 votes, and he could still get the same amount of delegates. That's the whole thing. The same people who said that I was off my rocker for saying Bernie was going to win in 2016, that was the only time he could have won. These are the same people who are like, yeah, Bernie's going to win. It's like, no, not this year. They spent 3 years saying that Russia wanted Bernie and Jill Stein to become to harm Clinton along with Trump. And suddenly they're going to reverse course after 3 years? No, that's not the way this political machine runs. But if you look, okay, so here, let's see, Nevada. That's interesting. I can't even see the popular vote here in Nevada. I don't know. I wonder why. That's hilarious. So, Steyer is at 11. Warren is at 13. Mayor Pete's at 10. If you look at the Iowa polls, Mayor Pete was 20 behind Bernie. And about 3, 4, 5, 8. Bloomberg plus Klobuchar plus Biden plus Buttigieg Hillary delegates. Exactly. And about 3, 4, 5, 8. That's my point. That's what I was trying to say. Exactly. You said it better than me. Much better. The Groove. Just a little something to show my support. Thank you, brother. The Groove. Thank you so very much. You have a fantastic. By the way, everyone, The Groove, everyone, Annabelle 3, 4, 5, 8, my feels, everyone, have a great Valentine's Day. Have a fantastic Valentine's Day. The Groove. Thank you so very much. Thank you. My feels. Instead of drinking, can we all have 2 scoops? When Trump wins November, since having 2 scoops of ice cream is considered elitist now. I want more than 2 scoops. My feels. I want a hot fudge sundae with hot fudge and vanilla ice cream and nuts and cherries and or no, cherries Jubilee. Was that the you have these cherries that they're like sautéed, and you put them on the that would seem elitist. That's just the usual dessert that I have, cherries Jubilee. Mafeels, thank you so very much. Two scoops of ice cream. The Groove, thank you very much. The Groove, greatly appreciated. Banana Split is awesome. I'm trying to find, this is hilarious, Nevada. I just want to show you the shenanigans that take place in Nevada, okay? This is David Plouffe. David Plouffe, Nevada, 2008. Irregularities. Okay, so Obama manager accuses Clintons of widespread dirty politics. January 19, 2008. So, hear me out, everyone. Everyone. The Groove, Mafeels, everyone. I've had them on 3, 4, 5, 8. Everyone. The world is now saying Bernie Sanders could win. There's a 0 chance Bernie's going to win the Democratic primary because the Democrats they view Bernie as an existential threat. They don't view Trump as an existential threat. They make money from Trump. They lose money with Bernie. So they're just waiting to obliterate this poor guy's campaign. That's the way the Democrats work. That's why if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, you should not see Trump as your biggest adversary. Your biggest adversary is the Democratic Party, but then again, you don't want to rock the boat. But this is January 19, 2008. Obama manager accuses Clintons of widespread dirty politics. David Plouffe, in a succinct statement appended to release quotations from his boss, candidate Obama, said the Obama campaign was investigating more than 200 reporters of irregularities in Nevada. Quote, we currently have reports of over 200 separate incidents of trouble at sites, including doors being closed up to 30 minutes early, registration forms running out so people were turned away, and ID being requested and checked in a non-uniform fashion. This is in addition to the Clinton campaign's effort to confuse voters and call into question the at-large sites which clearly had an effect on turnout at these locations. These kinds of Clinton campaign tactics were part of an entire week's worth of false, divisive attacks designed to mislead caucus goers and discredit the contest itself. Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Secretary is going into this with a Trident nuke. Bernie has a Swiss Army knife. Okay, Trident, Swiss Army knife. Trident sub, Swiss Army knife. Okay. Who do you think's going to win? Trident submarine that could obliterate a country and a little toothpick. That's just one example, okay? And even if he gets the popular vote, he'll still lose the delegate count, and it's all about the delegate count. So, it's all about the delegate count, which is nonsense also because it's all about Clinton. Hillary Clinton's going to be nominee. But see, this is the thing. This gets back to Michael Flynn. The Steele dossier, Alexander Downer, Joseph Mifsud, Bruce Orr, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, Strzok, Comey, the Mueller probe, Comey's memos, the Mueller probe, impeachment. Who do you think this benefits? Does it benefit Bernie Sanders? No, of course not. Doesn't benefit Bernie Sanders. Of course not. Does it benefit Klobuchar? No. Does it benefit Biden? No. He was harmed by impeachment more than anyone else. Who would it benefit? Who would it benefit? You're looking at a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where Clinton, all she has to do is wait until a month before or a day before the convention or whatever. And it's tailor-made. It's tailor-made. Clinton will become nominee. And I'm on 3, 4, 5, 8. What percent of Bernie voters will vote for Clinton after he gets, 95%? 95%. And about 24.58. 95%. Ramla Farah! Happy Valentine's Day, Ramla! Happy Valentine's Day! Thank you so very much for watching always. You are awesome. Thank you for watching always. Ramla Farah, thank you. Thank you. And about 3458, 95% will vote. So, you're looking at 95% of Bernie voters. 95%. 95%. So, I mean, so then you get to Pence discusses the calls between Flynn and Kislyak on faith. They did not discuss anything having to do with the United States' decision to expel diplomats. So then they get here's the game they play. They're like, well, we provided sanctions. We implemented sanctions against Russia a day before President Obama left office. Well, Trump is president. He can reverse the sanctions. Who cares? Who cares? President Obama signs an executive order announcing sanctions against Russia. Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak contacts Flynn. So what? This was all part of the neuroses. Their minds were altered forever, irrevocably altered once they lost to Trump. So now anything was possible with Trump. How on earth, then you get Bloomberg. How on earth is Bloomberg up in polls? This is hilarious. If you watched paint dry, real time, that's more charisma there than listening to Bloomberg. The only person, and she'll still lose, but the only person who could go head up against Trump is Clinton. Even I know this, and I've been saying that Clinton committed crimes left and right. The only person who could possibly stand up to Trump from the perspective of a Democrat that wanted, somebody to stand up to Trump was Clinton. And when Clinton runs, oh my God, do you understand they are going to say that she was absolutely amazing, that she was just, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Oh my God, she was heroic and gutsy. When Clinton loses to Trump again, because it ain't gonna be Bernie. When Clinton loses to Trump again, they're going to beg William Barr to indict everyone possible on the left that caused this madness. If in 2008, Clinton lost to President Obama after 200 examples of irregularities, listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. This is the basis of my philosophy here. If David Plouffe in The Atlantic stated there were 200 examples of cheating in one primary in Nevada. 200 examples in 2008. And Clinton is still lost. And then they cheated Bernie in 2016 and she still lost. Do you think that she would then... And then President Obama stated that he would intervene if Bernie became close to being the nominee. What makes anyone think that Clinton would allow this? Because she runs that there is no Democratic Party. It's run by both Bill and Hillary. It's a political machine. When Andrew Gillum and Bob Menendez, two Democratic politicians, one progressive, one liberal, centrist Democrat, when they needed money, they campaigned with Hillary Clinton. Clinton runs the Democratic Party. This, what you see here, okay, Biden's campaign is done, as is Warren's. Bernie, they've yet to, and I don't want to say it like I'm rooting for this, but Democrats are going to cheat Bernie again, and they're going to be very nasty towards him. And they'll never let him win. It doesn't matter if he gets more people voting. So they're going to do the reverse of the popular vote. So they cried and complained about the popular vote for 3 years. Then Bernie's going to get the popular vote. Heavy capitalist? I don't think so. But I would want that. But I don't even think that he would want that. Heavy capitalist. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think so. If you just look at... these polls are meaningless. In November, you had Biden at 27% in Nevada. 538. I give it up to them. They do have a good website, even though it's very liberal view. It's probably the most honest. 538 is probably, even though the predictions on the presidential election for 2016, 2020, if I go head up with my predictions, I'm far ahead of 538. But I will say 538, they're the best website for polls if you believe these polls. If you believe that these polls are not public relations and you think that they're a true indicator of public sentiment. If you just look at, you know what? I want to look at Iowa. If you just go to Iowa. Okay, so go to Iowa. I want to show you why Bernie's going to be so cheated. This poor guy. And I feel bad. I don't say this with glee, but it is the way it is. It is the way it is. Okay? Now, if you look, February 2nd, Buttigieg was 7 points behind Bernie. How did he win Iowa? He was 7 points behind Bernie. 7 points. And he barely, and by the way, Bernie barely got the popular vote in Iowa. Barely. He wasn't 7 points ahead. Okay? He was 7 points down, and he still won. Okay? Now, the polls are meaningless. The 538 has a great graph here. Interactive thing. Okay, he was 7 points a day before. A day before, he was 7 points, Pete Buttigieg. Okay? Now, if you look... in July, Biden was 23 points. And Mayor Pete was only 7. Bernie was 14. The whole thing's nonsense. There's no front runner here, which is by design. You think it's by accident? This by design. Okay, let's look at Nevada. Let's look at South Carolina. Let's see this here. Warren is at 17%. Oh, hold on one second. No. I'm looking at... Okay. How is Bloomberg at 13% in California now? See, this makes no sense at all. This is absurd. This is how I know Bernie will get cheated. There are no Bloomberg signs in LA. I can tell you that right now. There are Bernie signs. And there's you get the old cars with the, Obama 08 or, very rarely you'll see a Clinton 2016, but sometimes you'll see Trump. This is how Bernie's at 27% in California. How much? He ain't going to get the most delegates in California because California's a hardcore Democratic establishment. There's no Medicare for all in California, okay? Let's see. Texas. The issue of whether or not Bernie wins the popular vote is irrelevant. Biden is at 17%. Bloomberg is at 18% in Texas. In Texas? So Bloomberg's at 18%, Sanders at 20%. Bloomberg's going to come out with more delegates than Bernie on Super Tuesday. It's going to be the biggest charade of all time. Nobody, absolutely nobody wants Bloomberg. Nobody. This is how you know the whole thing's nonsense. Bloomberg is at 18% in North Carolina. The whole thing's nonsense. Okay? It's complete and utter nonsense. Complete and utter nonsense. Bloomberg's at 17% in Michigan. How is this possible? Who do you think he's going to give all his delegates to? Clinton. Okay? You think Bloomberg, there's zero chance he could ever win. It would be McGovern, it would be like a 1984, 1972 type of thing. Okay? It's going to be Clinton versus Trump again. It's their only chance. And I'm telling, they should, if they're smart, if they're smart, one of them is listening to me. Clinton's the only chance they have. That campaign needs to announce eventually, but they'll probably announce after Super Tuesday. Who cares when they do, a day before the convention? Who cares? The whole thing's nonsense anyway. So, Michael Flynn was set up. Then they say, Pence learns about Yates' warning. Oh, so Sally Yates warned. Flynn denies to FBI agents that he discussed the sanctions with Russian officials. So this is how they get. This is how they utilize government to try to undermine Trump and remove Trump from office. They say, well, you can't talk about the sanctions. You can't talk about the sanctions. He can talk about whatever he wants to talk about. Just like President Obama's administration came into the White House with a Russian reset. They were talking about reversing Bush's foreign policy long before they're like, oh, the Logan Act. They were talking about reversing U.S. foreign policy towards Russia long before President Obama was officially the president. So then they got Flynn on, he spoke to Sergei Kislyak about sanctions, but he said he didn't. You know what? He has to be let go, and Trump should never have let him go. Trump should never have let him go, and if the FBI wanted to go after him, that was the time. And if the FBI wanted to go after Sessions, he should have just gotten William Barr right then. I mean, could you imagine if he got William Barr right then and there? There would be no special counsel. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I will be back in about 3 or 4 hours by around 10:30, 11 p.m. Pacific, live stream tonight. All 500 people, please be there. Ladies and gentlemen, Mafiels, everyone here, thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you. I will be back. I'll be back at around 10:30 p.m. Pacific on this live stream. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. I have a really good segment that's uploading, and you will love it. Thank you so very much, everyone. God bless. Thank you so much. I'll see you tonight.